Hi there, welcome to FMCG by Alex. My name is Alex, and today I would like to talk to you about how it is to start to work with a distributor. So, when is the time to start with a distributor? I've covered this topic in previous videos, obviously, but I would like to rehash a little bit for purpose of repeating. Is normally when you learn something, the start of your FMCG business normally is that you start with e-commerce as a channel. So you start selling online. It's a very simple, low threshold process. So there's no shelf space online. You can put anything on a website, anything on a Shopify or WooCommerce store or whatever your Magento. There's a lot of different e-commerce stores, and of course you can sell on marketplaces. Like in essence, Amazon is for most of the world quite common, but in Asia you have Shopee, you have Indonesia's Tokopedia, for example. So it's quite a lot of different marketplaces depending on the geography. Europe also has, of course, more than just Amazon, but I'm just sticking to a couple of examples in order to not make this entire video a list of e-commerce platforms that exist. Um, just to give you an impression that online sales, of course, are quite interesting. And there's a lot of theory about the reach of e-commerce stores, like where you can reach technically the entire country, and then it's like where you're running ads and actually promoting your brand and getting influencers involved and all those things. So this is how a lot of brands actually start with the low threshold, under the radar, and maybe even as a business where you are producing something at home, a home industry sort of thing, where you are selling online. Now that's a very easy way to start, where you can actually still have your day job, and you have time in the evening to prepare orders, send it out, and slowly build up the volume in order to get things moving. Now, normally, if you are beyond that point, you also start to approach some retail stores. Retail is still where the I guess the volume is with regards to FMCG. There are other categories, of course, that do maybe better in e-commerce than in retail nowadays, but FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods, really needs this impulse point of purchase type of display in stores in order to really move in larger quantities. So retail also gives a little bit of a boost to your e-commerce presence, because hey, this is a retail product, therefore it is more valuable, it's more accepted, the brand is actually stronger. So this is actually where you maybe have a couple of stores in the area. Normally, the people who are closest to you, the supermarkets that are close to where you are doing your shopping yourself, they are more inclined to give you a chance, or give a chance to local brands. Say, hey, this is from this city. I am actually from this city. I do my groceries there. My mother does her groceries there, etc. Then that is something that you can use as a way to get in the door with retailers. Not everybody's open to it, of course, but it's a matter of trying, and having a sympathetic story goes a long way. Then, of course, in the start, of course, you have a lot of these direct events where you are joining an event and you can open a table or a booth, basically, where you are selling your product directly. So you're promoting it, you're explaining what it is. It's a bit like a sales promoter, but then at an event. This also has a version where you're doing it in market stalls, basically, or in malls, countries that have a lot of malls, for example. Indonesia, I'm speaking basically from my reference here. Indonesia has a lot of malls in Jakarta alone already. So there's a lot of activity going on where you have sales promoters, sales promotion girls, sales promotion boys, actually, who are going around depending on the product. The gender is not important, but depending on the product, some genders actually fit better than others with certain products. Like a lady selling makeup is maybe a bit more, cosmetics is a bit more acceptable than a boy going up to someone selling cosmetics. But I mean, the point is, with regards to events, you have quite a lot of people going to these places, where you can capture quite a lot of public in one go. And the same goes, therefore, for crowded places that you can actually sell directly to consumers. Now, is this profitable or not? So it depends a little bit on whether you measure your time. If you are at the early stage and say, look, this is my free Saturday or my free Sunday, and I'm going there myself with my husband or my wife, basically, and I'm going to sell directly to consumers, yeah, then that is part of the fun, maybe part of the process of actually getting your brand out there. And you will also see that it will lead to people trying to buy online. So my advice definitely would be to have your e-commerce set up first. Then actually, when you go to retail or go to events, people will ask, okay, where can I find this brand? And then you can point to an e-commerce site. And especially at events where people are trying your product, maybe sampling is quite an interesting thing, where people are trying your product, that is actually something that really works quite well, when you can point them to, hey, you can also buy it on this website, or you can buy it on this e-commerce platform, basically. So rather than maybe people are in the area only for one day, they don't go to that one supermarket in your area that you also sell. So therefore, having an online presence is definitely a guarantee that people can at least order your product if they really like it. So this is how you build your sales one by one. Of course, you need to support it with social media. So you need to make sure, even though you might not be completely into social media yourself, if you rarely use it or you're not an avid user of it, opening a page on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok is maybe a little bit more advanced with regards to videos, but let's say an Instagram page and a Facebook page are really the bare minimum that you need to have. And for companies normally, B2B, you have a LinkedIn page, which is quite interesting for a brand as well, if you are looking to reach other business to business customers, basically, where you basically retailers, etc. I would say for consumers, definitely Facebook and Instagram. And then because Facebook and Instagram have a bit of a different customer profile, just a different demographic to cover. So Facebook is a bit for the older, discerning customer, basically, while Instagram is, of course, it's a bit quicker, pictures, less text. It's quicker, basically. So in essence, you can look at a younger audience from there. The same as TikTok. TikTok and Instagram, of course, are head to head with regards to the way they are engaging with consumers. TikTok has a bit of a legal problem, obviously, with regards to certain jurisdictions, but the idea is actually you have quite a lot more reach in both Instagram and TikTok, even more than Instagram, obviously, but it's also more forgettable because it's a shorter piece of content, obviously. What I've noticed so far from Facebook is also that the interaction with people is less. So you have less responses than from Instagram. People are more looking at it more as a passive channel nowadays. The good thing from Facebook, however, is that for the right product, of course, it's still a powerful channel where you also can really target your ads quite specific towards. You can really target people's likes and dislikes, and geographies, ages, etc. All these things are able to, laser focus on who you want to reach in terms of who is actually going to buy your product, basically. So uh, look at social media more as it's a TV channel where you are adding commercials between good content. So basically, content can be, oh, I've been at an event, I've shot maybe half an hour of video, I'm cutting it up in different pieces, and I'm repurposing it for Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, for example. That could be a treasure trove of your next 2-3 weeks of content can come from there, and reuse it also. The idea is actually to also offer customers something of value. People like to learn something from the companies they buy from. So, did you know that you have? Did you know this actually was one of the properties of this product? Did you know, the first person who drank coffee in the world was this guy? Something like that. So, the purpose of it is a bit like, not all only about commercial. If you have a social media channel and it's like a TV station, if you watch a TV station that only airs commercials, would you still watch it? Probably not. So that's the purpose of social media, is to also inform and educate and entertain the public, basically, in between transmitting your message. So it's a TV station you own. Building it slowly, so you have every single time you need to link everything together, obviously, on your packaging during the events, letting people sign up one by one. You're conquering the world one store at a time, one user at a time also. Then comes the moment that the setup phase is over, so you are actually growing. You have done all the events, you've sold directly to some stores, you are slowly building your e-commerce traffic, you are no, yeah, you're growing basically in the sense of, hey, this is interesting. I see also traction in stores, so meaning that if I only need to scale it, that is actually the point where you need to recognize whether this is worth it or not. Um, in some stores, you have products that are sold out before you turn your back. And in other stores, there are, of course, things that are covering with dust, basically gathering dust on the shelf. So, not every retail outlet is, of course, a good measure for whether or not your product has traction, but online traction is a good indicator. And of course, the good stores actually that you can recognize what is a good store, what is the customer profile that is coming there basically to do their shopping. Uh, for that expansion to happen, meaning I recognize there is traction in the stores that I am selling to, or in most of the stores I'm selling to. Therefore, adding more stores means I'm scaling my business. I'm actually able to possibly quit my job and move on to this full time. Maybe you've already done so. But for this expansion phase means like it's more work than you alone, even full time, could possibly handle. So you need to hire more people. Now, hiring more people is a bit like it's like building a bigger car. So you need to actually to go faster with the car. You need to actually put in a bigger engine, but the bigger engine also uses more petrol. So you need to put in a bigger gas tank, basically. So in order to drive faster, maybe also the wheels need to be changed, or you need to have other things in the car. I'm not a mechanic, but I'm lost in the analogy. But the point is like you change one thing, you need to also add the support, basically. Um, so hiring more salespeople, meaning you cover more stores, you can cover more ground, but you also need more people to package the product. You need more people to produce the product. You need to more warehouse space. You need more people to make the administrative process go smoothly. So everything is more intense. So do you have the money for that? That is actually also the big question, where I'm going to link it to distributors in a moment. Um, so when you are growing, automatically for fast-moving consumer goods, retail becomes the focus. There are products, of course, like I said, that e-commerce still is the biggest contributor, but retail is actually the biggest focus of everything, of every single brand in the world, where retail is actually something that, because the product is still physically delivered to people, retail is actually also part of it, is the impulse side of things. Now, a matter of, do I want to wait for 1, 2, 3 days before my product arrives at home? I want to use it now. I'm going to the store on the corner and I'm going to buy it because I use it now. So this is actually one of the things where, especially also cheaper products, if you look at impulse products, which are lower priced, so you have lower priced products selling through e-commerce is probably not viable unless you do it in larger quantities, so like full boxes, etc. So this is the limiting factor. If you have specialty products, premium products that are being sold online during e-commerce, basically, that of course is better suited, and maybe there's less shelf space available for those products on retail. Therefore, e-commerce is still the dominant channel. But for everybody else, retail becomes the focus. So as soon as you need to expand more into more stores, you need more people, and people are expensive. It's also a matter of, is this actually going to fly? Meaning, is this just a flash in the pan, or am I going to really look at consistent growth in the coming years? How much do you believe in this? Is this a hype, a fad, or is this actually just sustainable business that I am building? Um, and of course, more people means that as soon as you have a downturn, for whatever reason, economic downturn, now you see it also that the world is in crisis with regards to all the geopolitical things that are happening. Basically, you see that consumers are actually cutting back on spending, and therefore maybe some companies actually need to scale back the number of people that they hire for certain processes. So Your administration becomes more complex as soon as you are expanding to more stores, meaning that everything needs to be documented properly. You need to have a flow of documents actually where people are signing for delivery. Yeah? So I deliver this receipt, especially also the collection of money. So a lot of markets still collection is actually manual, so you need to go to the store, present, hey, this is sold, therefore I need to collect the money. Especially traditional trade is actually still like that. So traditional trade is a bit of a nightmare for companies who want to expand basically to handle. So you really need a distributor for that, but I'll go into that in a moment. And of course, if you want to expand to other cities, you can't have a city that is maybe 2 hours from you. You can't have products that are stored in one city and then delivered in another city. Maybe that's too long. Yeah, so there are countries larger. I'm coming from the Netherlands. Netherlands is very small. In about 3 hours, you're from north to south. So there are supermarket chains that have one big distribution center in one part of the country, and they actually are supplying everything from that. But point is actually that larger countries actually they need maybe multiple depots in different cities. New city, new depot, therefore new team also that you need to put there. So all these things are very difficult to control. So not only from a cost perspective, but also from a management perspective. Can you be there, or do you have someone you can trust to actually run the show? And do you have the patience to do the not only the macro but also the micro of that particular process? Meaning, normally when you start out somewhere new, you need to be hands-on. You need to be there. You need to see what are the problems, what are your people facing. So it's not always that people are in need of you breathing down their neck and seeing whether they actually do things right, but sometimes they just need the help because you're new. It's an uphill battle basically, where uh, people in that city don't know yet about your brand. They don't know about your products yet. So they don't know your team yet, your company. So that is something that you need to keep in mind, that you are expanding, and it takes more time than you might think it needs. So that is something why a distributor also could play a part in that, because they already have the relationships, obviously. So expanding to other cities definitely is one of the things that is in the expansion phase. So you actually go national rather than regional or local, basically. Now, in smaller countries like the Netherlands or maybe Singapore, you're national right away almost. So, but I mean, even in the Netherlands, there are 4,500 supermarkets. So if I look at, say, if I want to launch a product tomorrow, I do also start in my own home province, and I probably expand from there to the provinces adjacent to it. So, to cover thousands of supermarkets by myself, if I were the only single fighter, basically, it would be a lot of work to do in on your own. You need people for that, and otherwise a distributor, basically. So then when you reach that point where you say, okay, this is becoming too big for me, there's basically a more than I can handle. I think that is the moment where you need to look at a distributor. So as soon as you see, like, I have a lot of money and I can actually afford it, yeah, please, by all means, keep it under your own control, because the margin, of course, is also yours. But um, normally, if you are looking at expanding to other cities and other areas that you don't know, you don't have any experience with those cities, then working with distributors can have multiple advantages. So normally you appoint a distributor per channel or per geographic area or per product. It can be a combination, like you can have different distributors in the same city for a specific channel. So um, but the idea is actually that each distributor has a portfolio of companies that they bring. A distributor, in essence, is more like a hatch where it passes through. But there are multiple principles actually that are concentrated. They have a portfolio of, let's say, 10 different suppliers that all are brought by one distributor, meaning that the truck that drives to the stores delivers 10 principals in one go. So 10 brand owners actually are piggybacking on this distributor basically. So means that only one salesperson can go in and sell 10 brands, meaning you don't have to have 10 different salespeople per brand, one that goes into that store. The delivery is, of course, cheaper because, yeah, 10 different products, it can be a pallet in one go rather than a box or two boxes. And the thing is with these distributors that they have a portfolio. Is like you have distributors that are specialized in personal care, or they're specialized in food or in beverages or in cheaper products or in more expensive products basically. So there are many varieties. There's also distributors that are very much focused on food and beverage companies, like on horeca basically, the hotel, restaurant, cafe, like food service sort of channels. There are distributors that are focused on traditional trade. There are distributors that are focused on modern trade. So they are specialized in those channels because they go there. So in essence, to appoint a distributor only makes sense when they already go there for another specific product. So if you have a distributor that doesn't go to a channel yet and you want to appoint them, okay, you go and cover all the restaurants in this area for me. They will not have any resources to do so unless you give them to them. So then you will get proposals like, can you cost share the salesperson, or can you pay this much for support, or the first 6 months, can you pay half the salary of this, or can you pay the full salary of my salesman so I can phase it in, or something like that. So large FMCG companies sometimes do that because they don't want to appoint another distributor for a channel that they're not sure about. But when you are small and you are starting out, better go to a distributor that already goes to the places you need to be. You need to really feel connected with, basically, because distributors can have large principals and small principals. And normally, when you start out, you are at zero, so you are a small principal. Means that if for some reason the owner says, yes, let's do it, then still you are at zero and you are not a very big contributor to their sales. If the sales team picks it up and then goes into the first few outlets and they say no, or the sales are not repeating, so the products are actually not selling through fast enough because maybe there's not enough support, or there is basically not enough demand yet for the product. That can also discourage a distributor very quickly by saying, okay, this is not a product that is actually moving very fast. Therefore, I'm not going to put my energy on it anymore. So that is actually what the salespeople also are paid on results basically. So what they do is they will not talk half an hour to get your product in the door. If they can sell in 5 minutes, they can sell 10 boxes of another principal basically. So that's something that you need to keep in mind. Um, in essence, what it comes down to is that you give them a margin in exchange for borrowing their resources. Their resources are delivery trucks, so they deliver the product from. In the Netherlands, definitely, it's more a passive sort of thing where, um, distributors and wholesalers, they are not so much or like the wholesale distributors basically, they are not so much a sales organization. They are more a fulfillment organization. So the principal still has a salesperson going. Coca-Cola, for example, has salespeople, area salespeople, who go to whatever restaurant or whatever outlet they want to go, and they link or they route the sale they make. They route to various wholesalers and distributors that they work with, and depending on, okay, you can give me this much support, you can give me this much support. What is actually more advantageous for the outlet, or what is more advantageous, who is doing more with this particular wholesaler, this particular distributor. Now, a distributor who is actually not going to an outlet and actually needs to open it from zero, that is normally the most costly thing. So distributors are not always keen to open new outlets they are not selling to yet. So expanding into new outlets is something that is quite rare. But in essence, in most countries, when you appoint a distributor, also the sales team is actually going to ask for the order. So they are going to present your product there. They are going to ask for the order. This normally is for local modern trade. So the not the national key accounts. National key accounts, you need to go into another. I've made a video about key account management, so please do check it out. But this is more about local key accounts where you actually have people going for the orders. And of course, with national key accounts, like there might be distribution centers or national key accounts where they still locally have a distributor asking for the order, but nationally you are making agreements with them. Okay, I'm going to supply all your 10,000 outlets, but locally I have maybe 15 different distributors connected to 15 different DCs of your company that I can route the volume through, and then the distributor has more a logistics function than a sales function, where the order might come automatically based on replenishment. So in essence, like I said, margin in exchange for borrowing resources. So margins can be anywhere between 5 and 15%, and even higher than 15% in some cases, depending a little bit on how badly you need them and or how badly they need you. So a large supplier, of course, has more bargaining power than a small supplier. So if you're a small medium enterprise company, UMKM in Indonesian, you have very little bargaining power, so you probably need to give them quite high margins. The reason is, of course, you have stock turns meaning like how fast the distributor can sell out your stock, meaning conversion to cash, or margin. Margin is actually when it's slower, you need to give them more margin because it takes them longer to convert to cash. So this is something that you need to weigh, and you need to see how fast the traction, of course, of how much traction you have on your product. The thing with distributors, of course, that you're covering a larger market and you're lowering your own costs to some extent, but it's not, of course, free, because distributors, of course, tie up your money. It's another link in the chain. So where before you would probably go directly to a store and get paid directly, you actually now have to wait for the distributor to pay you because they need to wait for the store to pay you. So you need to add maybe 15, 30 days to your payment terms, basically. But on the other hand, bad debt, so meaning the store not paying you, that is not your problem. So in the end, that is based on the agreement you make with distributors, obviously. So if you have a consignment system, you probably are still stuck with the risk being yours. But normally you would say, like, everybody in the world uses sell or return, meaning sell or return is that you sell it in, and if it's not sold, it's returned at some point before it's expired. Now, normally, a product that is produced has maybe a year of expiry date, just to keep it average. There are shorter, there are longer, obviously, but a year of expiry date for dry goods. Normally 3 months before the end of before it expires, then there is a signal from the store saying, "Hey, I would like to return this because I see this. I need fresh stock. The customers will not buy this anymore." So that can have various reasons. Might be a first in, first out problem. There might be a packaging change. There might be whatever the reason is, the positioning in the store, or simply not selling fast enough. Then the stock in the store is actually not managed well enough. So I have done a video about promotions as well, where you need to manage, like, when you do a promotion, you put in a lot of stock maybe in an off-location display, so not in a regular shelf where normally the product is displayed, but you have maybe an end cap or a floor display where you put a lot of stock for that particular purpose. Then after the promotion is done, not everything is sold. So therefore it moves back to the stock room, whatever doesn't fit on the regular shelf. So that normally is the reason why imbalances start to arise inside stores for a certain stock. And it's usually slower moving items you always have a problem with, but that is also a reason for return. So be very careful to manage that and have your distributor manage that properly, of course. But returns actually would be, logically speaking, also when you are selling directly to stores or you're selling through distributors to stores, the returns will be the same. It's just that distributors have maybe a less less urgent, or maybe a less urgent manner of dealing with this. So for them, you are maybe principle number 10 out of 10, and therefore, it's processed in a certain way, and it's maybe gathering dust in the warehouse, and maybe you're losing another month of expiry date in the warehouse while they are collecting it from the market. So maybe not their fault also, but I mean, it's a matter of, it takes more time. It's more another link in the chain. Therefore, it takes time to actually collect everything. So it's not the most efficient way to deal with returns. And of course, if returns actually are in a very remote area, so let's say take Indonesia as a market where, just to give you an impression, Indonesia is so large that if you fly from Jakarta to Jayapura in Papua, which is the most eastern part of Indonesia, you're 6 hours on the way. So it's the same from the Netherlands to Dubai. So in the end, if you look at the time of transit, the time you're on the way, basically. So just to give you the idea of how vast that country is. So a container of stock is actually on the way, maybe 1 month to 1.5 months, depending on the weather. Um, so returning something from Jayapura to Jakarta, if you have basically a returns request, it usually makes more sense to just destroy things in the field there, and have proof. Okay, hey, this is actually being sold. This is not sold anymore. This is all destroyed. So they have photographic evidence, etc. Or someone goes there to destroy it in the field, etc. Um, this is an SOP of a distributor that you need to manage. Now, distributors by themselves will not move on your product, like I said. So you could be a small principal in a pool of big principals, basically, where a distributor is actually, of course, a business, and no matter what, relationship does help. You need to use your relationship, of course, to really make sure that your brand is actually at the forefront, is actually being uh, the focus of their sales team, in essence. The issue with basically the distributors being focused on you is a battle that almost every single principal is actually fighting. So I've fought some of them myself, basically. So where we were, maybe out of 17 principals, we were number 14 or something in contribution. So we were really not on the mind of any salesperson in the company. We had a difficult time really pushing also for new open outlets. We were actually simply not the focus of the team, basically. So it was a massive distributor we were working with. Very good distributor, by the way. If you look at pay on time, they were actually very professional with data and all those things, basically. But point is actually, they also can't be blamed for the fact that if you don't make them enough money, you're not the number one priority, obviously. So the point is, with regards to that choosing a distributor, so bigger is not always better. So just to give the impression, so um, big distributors can be very good, but they might not be hungry for your product. So if you have smaller distributors, local distributors that have really a strong position in the market, and here it comes down to, again, like you open up a branch in a new city. Do you have the connections? A distributor normally has the connections because they've maybe their father, their grandfather already sold generations to the grandfathers of these retailers, basically. So they are like local heroes in the city, basically local strongmen. Have a lot of family, maybe politicians also, that are really well connected, well entrenched in the city, basically. And this also can be very a strong thing for you to consider in terms of how to utilize these strengths actually for yourself. If you are starting from zero as a nobody and you don't know where to go, a distributor can be that beacon actually for you to guide you into the right. And then maybe they can use their connections to give you a chance to get into places where you normally couldn't. So that's something that is quite important. But distributors need to be managed, meaning not only if you look at national distributors or regional distributors, head office level, where you actually only go and talk to the PIC that is actually at head office, because that's someone who is collecting data from all the branches and all the salespeople in the field and doesn't really go there himself or herself. So this is something that is too far, basically disconnected, I would say, from reality in this case. Yeah, where reality is what really happens in the field might be a different representation of what this person reports back to you, because it's only data. Data doesn't lie, don't get me wrong, but the point is actually that it needs a little bit of firing up at the ground level, where you actually need to go to the field, where you actually meet these salespeople, people who are actually selling your product. And think back about what I said in the very first slide was, you need to start out by yourself going to events. You need to go to the retailers yourself to actually promote the product and sell it in. Now, that is what the salespeople also need to do, and that is where you need to support it. And if you have a company that is the size of Unilever or P&G, yeah, of course, it's going to be difficult, but then you need to have a support team of area managers, basically, or maybe a sales director that is actually going to go once in a while, go down to the branches and actually do a tour to fire up the troops, so to speak. And a bit of a reward with carrot and stick. I used to do, with my own sales team. Basically, I would celebrate the best performer every month. And then we would buy a cake, and everybody would eat cake, of course, because we were celebrating the success of this person, not so much highlighting the person who is actually not performing, but everybody wanted to, because you frame it positive. Everybody wanted to actually. Belong to the group of best performers at some point. We would even do it like with a framed picture, where I would hand a certificate to some of the guys. And in the end, it was actually very funny when I came back to my old company, maybe 10 years later, and the first thing I saw in the office of my team basically was, who was still working there, was a picture of me shaking hands with them and handing them that certificate. I thought, oh, that actually had really an impact, where they really valued the thought behind it. Yeah. So in the end, it's and of course a monetary reward, where in some countries it's more important than others. Usually, a pat on the back is already a big reward. People actually appreciating you. Appreciation is actually more important than monetary rewards. But a monetary reward is also something that really sweetens the deal a bit. So. Um, this is something I applied quite regularly also for my own team, where the best guy at the end of the year was actually getting some sort of monetary reward, like, one-time payment of something, basically. Well, I mentioned the number, obviously, because it's a different time, different amounts, basically. But and you have to imagine, especially in a country like Indonesia, where the sales teams are actually being paid, quite modestly, compared to Western standards, basically. So um, that a little bit of extra money actually can really motivate someone. Hey, I'm really, this guy coming from a head office and actually offering me, uh, you know, if I achieve this, or if I am pushing myself a bit further, more focus on this product, then there is a reward for me in it. So not entirely antagonistic, I hope, obviously. So that is something where a positive experience with the brand actually is hoping to work on the long term, obviously. But that's why I said, like, managing distributors is not only talking to people and analyzing spreadsheets, but you need to basically go down to the field and maybe even visit together with these people, help them sell, help them see. You see also what are the things that they are missing. Maybe they're missing product information that they need to bring. Maybe they are missing something. So you have to imagine they are the extension of you. Rather than you hiring this guy directly, they are actually working for the distributor. So you need to look at them as an extension of your company or your brand in the field. So this is the way I would say is quite important to to see it like that, and also to train and motivate them as accordingly as part of your team, basically, because in essence they are the extension, like I said. Now, working with distributors in the end it can be at some point also overwhelming, where you say, "Oh my God, I have worked with distributors, and the only thing they are doing is actually, blocking my working capital, and it's taking longer for me to get paid, and they're not doing anything for me now." And then you would need to look at how are you managing these guys. So. Um, is it clear what is the expectation? And if the owner says yes, how are the layers under that actually executing this? What are the blockers in the field? If someone goes physically to the outlets and tries to sell your product, what are the things they are encountering? What is actually the perception in the field, in the retail chains actually that they are going after, in the retailers that they're going after? What is the perception of your product? Is there a lot of competitor activity? Is the competitor specifically entrenched inside the city? All these things you need to keep on considering, and that's why, on paper sometimes a new city or a new market can look very attractive, and in reality the results can be very disappointing. And usually the first uh, thing people do is point the finger at the partner, meaning the distributor. The distributor is not performing. Yeah, that is true. That's objectively true. But there can be so many reasons why. And changing the distributor doesn't always necessarily change the outcome. That is actually what I'm trying to say here. Um, and yeah, like I said, I'm a big fan of the distribution system. So working with distributors, of course, they're yeah, it can be an expensive thing because you have to give margin to them. You have to, therefore, if you're a small company, you have to build in the margin for the distributor. So because now all the margin that you are selling directly to retailers is yours, then you have to cut the margin to the retailers actually by the margin for the distributors. You have to first sell to the distributor, and the distributor needs to have a margin to sell to the retailers. That's something that not every brand has thought of when they started. So, oh, I'm selling online. I have 20% margin. Okay, that's it. So I am fine with the price as it is. That's something that they are quite happy with. Um, so there's an example, very interesting. I used to sell craft beer in the Netherlands. I had a craft beer brand here, and there was an example from one of my distributors that said, yeah, I actually wanted to get a brand from Amsterdam. So Amsterdam is an old city, the capital of the Netherlands. It's about 700, 800,000 people live there. And the guy had it's a very small brewery there. And the guy he made it himself. And every day with a cycle, like a cycle with, like a big carriage. He was actually going cycling through Amsterdam to deliver the beer. And he loved that apparently, but the real reason for that particular system was that he did not have the margin. He sold to every cafe and all retailers that he was covering basically. He did not have the margin to appoint a distributor to do it for him, and because he never thought about it when he started, so he was forced to keep on doing that. Which, in the end, you can always make it into a more like a romantic story. There's a guy on a cycle actually delivering beer in Amsterdam, but I mean, the point is actually that it was just a mistake, I guess, in the calculation up front. Okay, people you sell for a certain price to people, and hey, there needs to be a distributor in between. Now, that 10-15% margin that they need to add to it, yeah, that is maybe something the customer is not willing to cough up just for the sake that someone else is going to bring it to him. Yeah, that is not my problem. I just want your beer at the same product, your product at the same price as I used to buy it. So that was the reason that I mentioned this example where a lot of the smaller medium enterprise, UMKM in Indonesia, like I said, they design this maybe for direct sales, or they sell directly to a retailer and say, okay, I still have a good margin, and that they need to work with a distributor. Yeah, then the distributor actually needs a margin as well, so it becomes more expensive. Actually, your own sales, your own margin becomes smaller, but you sell a lot more. Meaning, you'd rather have a million times that margin, then maybe only 100 times that margin. If you say, oh, well, you only sell 100 units instead of a million units, for example. So that's the thing. Last but not least, I would like to also say, like, this requires a lot of financial planning. So when to work with a distributor. So you can appoint distributors left and right. It's just the problem is that distributors will not pay for your listing fees. If you actually have all the listing and support fees, all the promotion fees. Uh, Bad debt is actually included in the distributors, even though they might actually have a return allowance that they require from you. So maybe a couple of percent of return allowance, everything is returnable, or everything is returnable, basically. Also, that you need to have, yeah, basically the fees for listings and also the support promotion. So if you run a promotion, yeah, it's still your dime, yeah, it's still your expense. Distributors don't work that into their margin, and even if they do, they will not maximize it. That is the problem. So if you agree that upfront, hey, I give you a couple of percent extra margin, then you pay for the listing fees, yeah, that is something that will not fly, because in the end they will not take that risk. They will just say, "Hey, thank you for the extra margin," and that's the short term thing that you think you solve something, but in the end it doesn't. Um, so that's something I've also experienced firsthand with regards to one of the companies I've worked with. And yeah, I also think, like, thinking through everything, it helps to have experienced people. Yeah, like working with someone. Yeah, if you're a small company, actually starting out with hiring people, then I'd go for experienced people over inexperienced. Basically, inexperienced might be cheaper. Experienced people might cost a little bit more, but you need to basically look at. How does the market work? That is actually one of the things that they need to understand properly for you. However, I do want to warn that sometimes it is, quite, how says, irresistible for small brands to say, "Oh, this is a guy who worked for a multinational, and I'm hiring this person to run my sales team." Now, the problem with very large companies versus startup or small medium enterprise companies that are actually growing is that the fundamental difference between large companies and small companies, that large companies are actually about deploying resources. So in essence, these guys they shift budgets, and actually have they can achieve whatever the budget is. So the creativity is very low because there is enough money. And yeah, they basically just deploy resources, deploy budgets, basically. And small companies, they need to still hustle. It's the hustle phase you are in, basically. So the hustle phase is actually something that you need to be creative. You need to leverage every single relationship you have. You need to find other ways to finance things. You need to basically, once in a while, do something that is thinking outside of the box. You need to be creative in order to actually really maximize the potential of the brand. And because you simply don't have the money, that is simple as that. So you don't have those millions of euros or millions of dollars, actually, that or billions of rupiah, basically, in this case in Indonesia, that you need to deploy in order to capture the market. You need to be very creative and step by step get there. So a, a person who is actually working for a big company goes to a small company will have a bit of a problem adapting to that. So it's not that they can't, but they need time to actually get used to this new way of thinking. Especially if you have older, experienced people, they are more difficult to change their way of thinking. So if you've experienced my example, for example, I've done both. I've worked for huge companies where I deploy resources, and I work for very small companies where I had to really myself merchandise things. I need to be the sales promoter. I needed to be the salesman who got no in his face, basically, for for getting products in the shelf. So in essence, and anything in between. So I've done it all myself ground level, and I've done it at at the macro level, basically, where you say like deploying resources. So I've walked a mile in everybody's shoe, and I'm just warning people: if you hire someone who is going to manage your brand for you, you need to have someone who is really understanding that ground level part as well as the deploying resources part. The deploying resources part is not bad, obviously, because in the end you need to move towards that. But so that is someone who will see the potential. That is someone who knows to speak the language of the distributors. That is someone who can make deal maker at a high level. But this ground level salesperson, this is maybe something you need, and you need to bridge that gap between ground level and high level salesperson. So um, in essence, someone with some experience in both, someone who maybe who had their own business at some point or work for a small company as well. So just hiring someone straight out of Unilever, yeah, that is maybe something that just needs a bit of time to adapt. Basically, I'm not trying to bash anyone coming from a big company, of course, because I've been there, done that, but just wanted to warn any small medium enterprise owner for the fact that you need to pick the right person and look at the right philosophy. How are you going to actually get into the market? How are you going to build my brand from zero? Because I am at zero and I need to actually build the brand to some extent. So this is my 2 cents on working with distributors. Like I said, I've done videos about this topic before, but I figured, like, I needed to repeat this and maybe add a few more insights to emphasize what this is about. There's a lot of small companies with a lot of potential, companies that have a lot of products that have a lot of potential, basically, and they're struggling a bit with, okay, how do I actually build this, and when do I engage with the distributor? So that's really for you guys, and I hope this was helpful. Then we've come at the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to reach out to me, Alex at thefreesalesconsultancy.com. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.